Welcome to our Daily Portion with WIT Ministries. My name is Matt Russell, and I'm the Ministry Director at WIT Ministries. For more information about our ministry, you can go to our website at pursuitfortruth.com. That is Pursuit for Truth, all spelled out, .com. Today's portion is Exodus 12, the Passover Lamb. Now the Lord said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, "This month shall be the beginning of months for you. It is to be the first month of the year to you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th of this month, they are each one to take a lamb for themselves, according to their father's households, a lamb for each household. Now, if the household is too small for a lamb, then he and his neighbor nearest to his house are to take one according to the number of persons in them. According to what each man should eat, you are to divide the lamb. Your lamb shall be an unblemished male, a year old. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats. You shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month. Then the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel is to kill it at twilight. Moreover, they shall take some of the blood and put it on the two doorposts and on the lintel of the houses in which they eat it. They shall eat the flesh that same night, roasted with fire, and they shall eat it with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled at all with water, but rather roasted with fire, both its head and its legs, along with its entrails. And you shall not leave any of it over until morning, but whatever is left of it until morning, you shall burn with fire. Now you shall eat it in this manner, with your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. For I will go through the land of Egypt on that night, and will strike down all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgments. I am the Lord. The blood shall be a sign for you in the houses where you live, and when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and no plague will befall you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. Feast of Unleavened Bread. Now this day will be a memorial to you, and you shall celebrate it as a feast of the Lord. Throughout your generations, you are to celebrate it as a permanent ordinance. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread, but on the first day you shall remove leaven from your houses. For whoever eats anything leavened from the first day until the seventh, that person shall be cut off from Israel. On the first day you shall have a holy assembly, and another holy assembly on the seventh day. No work at all shall be done on them, except what must be eaten by every person, that alone may be prepared by you. You shall also observe the Feast of Unleavened Bread, for on this very day I brought your hosts out of the land of Egypt. Therefore, you shall observe this day throughout your generations as a permanent ordinance. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. 7 days there shall be no leaven found in the houses, for whatever eats what is leavened, that person shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he is an alien or a native of the land. You shall not eat anything leavened. In all your dwellings you shall eat unleavened bread. Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said to them, go and take for yourselves lambs according to your families, and slay the Passover lamb. You shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood which is in the basin, and apply some of the blood that is in the basin to the lintel and the two doorposts, and none of you shall go outside the door of this house until morning. A memorial of redemption. For the Lord will pass through to smite the Egyptians, and when he sees the blood on the lintel and on the two doorposts, the Lord will pass over the door and will not allow the destroyer to come into the houses to smite you. And you shall observe this event as an ordinance for you and your children forever. When you enter the land which the Lord will give you, as he has promised, you shall observe this rite. And when your children say to you, what does this rite mean to you? You shall say, it is a Passover sacrifice to the Lord, who passed over the houses of the sons of Israel in Egypt when he smote the Egyptians, but spared our homes. And the people bowed low and worshipped. Then the sons of Israel went and did so, just as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. Now it came about at midnight that the Lord struck all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh, who sat on his throne, to the firstborn of the captive, who is in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. Pharaoh arose in the night, he and all his servants and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was no home where there was not someone dead. Then he called for Moses and Aaron at night and said, rise up, get out from among my people, both you and the sons of Israel, and go. Worship the Lord, as you have said. Take both your flocks and your herds, as you have said, and go and bless me also. Exodus of Israel. The Egyptians urged the people to send them out of the land in haste, and they said, we will all be dead. So the people took their dough before it was leavened, with their kneading bowls bound up in the clothes on their shoulders. Now the sons of Israel had done according to the word of Moses, for they had requested from the Egyptians articles of silver and articles of gold and clothing. And the Lord had given the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they let them have their requests. Thus they plundered the Egyptians. Now the sons of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 men on foot, aside from children. A mixed multitude also went up with them, along with flocks and herds, a very large number of livestock. They baked the dough which they had brought out of Egypt into cakes of unleavened bread, for it had not become leavened since they were driven out of Egypt and could not delay, nor had they prepared any provisions for themselves. Now the time that the sons of Israel lived in Egypt was 430 years, and at the end of 430 years to the very day, all the hosts of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. Ordinance of the Passover. It is a night to be observed for the Lord, for having brought them out of the land of Egypt. This night is for the Lord, to be observed by all the sons of Israel throughout their generations. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. No foreigner is to eat of it, but every man's slave purchased with money after you have circumcised him, then he may eat of it. A sojourner or a hired servant shall not eat of it. It is to be eaten in a single house. You are not to bring forth any of the flesh outside of the house, nor are you to break any bone of it. All the congregation of Israel are to celebrate this. But if a stranger sojourns with you and celebrates the Passover of the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near to celebrate it. And he shall be like a native of the land. But no uncircumcised person may eat of it. The same law shall apply to the native as to the stranger who sojourns among you. Then all the sons of Israel did so. They did just as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron. And on that same day, the Lord brought the sons of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their hosts. So, famous story, disputed story. People really struggle with this story in its entirety, because this is God showing how much he loves and cares for his people. And the world, who does not want to accept God as their God, is basically jealous. They're comparing and going, why are you treating them like that? And me, why is my life like this? And then believers, we say, well, you need a relationship with Jesus. You need to understand what he did for you. You need to, and they just go, no, I don't want that. Well, for those who didn't want it, God poured out his wrath. And as I've been sharing just bits and pieces of this one video that I saw with the archaeologist who has proven all of these things and tying them all scientifically, he proved even all the way to the firstborn sons and the first male of all the livestock. He proved historically that it happened. He proved archaeologically that it happened. And then he tried to prove scientifically. He explained how it could happen, but he reached one point. He had proven that it was only the firstborn sons historically. There is evidence in hieroglyphics telling this story, and in that story, it shows that only the firstborn sons. So all of the children dying would be one thing. Only the firstborn sons, and only in Egypt. None of the Israelites. And the livestock. Thinking about the livestock that's out. And there's livestock that's Egyptian. There's livestock that's from the Hebrews. So only the Egyptian livestock died, not Israel's. Again, he proved that it could happen. He proved scientifically how it could happen, tied back to that Santorini explosion of the volcano. But this is the point in the show where he says there's no possible way this could have happened without the hand of a higher power. So in trying to prove that God doesn't exist, and in trying to prove that this story The reason why people want to reject the stories from the Bible is because they reject God, not because they have any problem with the stories themselves. It's all from a rejection. It's a place of rejection for God. They don't want a higher authority. They want to be their own God. They want to live their own life and do what they want with their own ethics and their own. That's not how we're supposed to live. And it's been shown and evident. Now, that doesn't mean that people don't make mistakes, because we do. And you know what? Followers of Christ make mistakes too. We all do. But rejecting this story is very dangerous. Any of the stories in the Bible, but especially this one, because it has been proven. And you know what the response is whenever people talk about, oh yeah, here's the evidence, here's the proof that this actually happened? They immediately start attacking Moses. Well, Moses was a drunk. Well, Moses was a womanizer. Or Moses was a murderer. They just attack him like that's going to change anything. I'm a sinner too. And the good news is God can use me just like he used Moses. That's good news. But again, their point is just to discredit the story. Well, here's the deal. It happens. It happened. And God said, this is a permanent ordinance. Permanent. For all of your generations. Well, then why aren't we taught this in the Christian church? Why are we not taught? Why do we not keep Passover every year? Why do we not celebrate this? Why do we not follow the Feast of Unleavened Bread? Why are we not even taught about it? Because all the apostles did. All the disciples did. Jesus himself, our Messiah, he did. So if they all did and continued to do so even after Jesus rose again and ascended into heaven, if they continued for 3 centuries, they continued to do this until all of a sudden the self-proclaimed God, Constantine, the Roman emperor, by signing a paper said, all of these pagans in Rome are now Christian. And he said it's his responsibility as God incarnate, God in the flesh, that's what he said. As God incarnate, it's his responsibility to de-Judaize the Bible. He is to de-Judaize Christianity. He's the one who moved Sabbath from Saturday to Sunday. He's the one who said, we're not going to follow the moon, the calendar, the lunar calendar anymore. We're going to follow the solar calendar. He's the one who changed all of those things under his watch. And he started to take books out of the Bible and started changing some of the terms in the Bible. He had an agenda, and his agenda was from the enemy to twist. So why do we not practice these things if Jesus did it? If Paul says we are to live as Jesus lived, do what Jesus did, be imitators of Christ. So do we only imitate certain things that he did? Did Paul make a distinction of, well, you should imitate these things, but those things, don't imitate those because those are bad? No, not true. God said, permanent. That's never ending. That's forever. And he said, for all your generations. The one thing that people will say is, well, that was just for the Jews. Okay, well, first of all, the Jews is a derogatory term towards one of the tribes, but you're referring to Israel, which they're Hebrews. So the Hebrew nation is what we're referring to, which would have been descendants from Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And they followed the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And in our scriptures, in the New Testament, Paul says that when you become a follower of Christ, you are grafted in to Abraham. We are grafted in to the Hebrew lineage. So if it's Passover and if all the high holidays and everything that God said to be forever, if they're only supposed to be for the Hebrew nation, well, if you accept Christ, you're grafted into the Hebrew nation. What if we started doing the things that God called us to do? What if we started really discovering what it means? Because when you actually look at the Passover meal, which is a Seder meal, it all points to Jesus. Why wouldn't God want us to do that? Before he was here, they were already recognizing that it was pointing to the Messiah. The unleavened bread, all the feasts, they all point towards Jesus. So if you really want to strengthen your relationship with Jesus, then you may want to dig into a lot of those things that Jesus actually did, and maybe try to, at minimum, learn about them and how they point to him. And then if it interests you from there, you have a choice. You can follow what God said, which said this is a permanent ordinance for all of your generations to keep. Or you can choose to ignore it and say, God, I know you gave me this, but I don't want to do it your way. I'd rather do it mine. Well, Father, I just pray right now that you would forgive us for the times that we've pushed our own agenda above yours. And I just ask that you would open our eyes and our ears, that we could see and hear, and open our hearts that we can really receive the truth that you have, and the fact that our lives are to be imitations of what Jesus' life looked like. And Father, help us to understand what that truly looks like so that we can live that out in our life. I pray for all this in Jesus' name.